honor of your wonderful recovery.
I appreciate so much the people, the doctors, the nurses, the whole staff of the hospital, because of the fact that they did not give up on me.
This was a relatively young individual that still, God willing, has plenty of life left. And what genuinely brings a smile to my face is knowing that we made a real difference in somebody who, on another day, that could easily have been his last day on this earth. I'm just so happy.
At the point I went into the hospital, I had 3 grandchildren, and my daughter was pregnant with my 4th grandchild. I was not feeling well in the morning. I asked my wife to take me to the hospital. I was in a wheelchair waiting to be checked in. I had a massive heart attack, widowmaker, they called it.
The initial rhythm that he presented in was a rhythm called ventricular fibrillation, where the heart is not beating enough to sustain life. And therefore, at that point, he was essentially what we would refer to as clinically dead.
They used a device called a Lucas device that actually does perfect contractions. They got him intubated, so they were able to put a tube down his lungs and give him a good supply of oxygen. At that point, we were doing what's called the ACLS protocol. There's about 4 to 5 steps. You give medication, and one after the other, and you try to continue to check the pulse.
9 days later, I woke up, was taken out of a comatose state. I found out at that time that the doctor and nurses in the emergency room worked on me for 57 minutes.
I've been around enough times to see this event happen, and pretty much after 30 minutes, maybe 35 minutes, we'll have said we've tried everything, nothing's working, and unfortunately we're going to have to call the code and this patient will now survive. But Dr. Openlander was not going to do that, and neither was the team there at the time. And we're all working together. We came up with a novel idea that there's a protocol where you can give high dose of beta blocker. A beta blocker is the antidote to adrenaline. So this is the exact opposite medication, and it's counterintuitive. But the theory is that this patient has too much catecholamine on board, and that's why we're not being successful. So we brought 2 defibrillators in at the same time so we could give him a massive amount of energy to try and resynchronize the heart. We rebooted his heart, and for the first time, we had a recovery of a very weak and feeble rhythm, but it was different. He was still gravely ill, but he was stable enough for us to be able to bring him to the cath lab and place what we needed to do first was the Impella device. That allows the heart to rest and then gives him the chance for us to complete the procedure, open the artery, and get him safely to the other side. 4
days after I was brought out of that comatose state, I left the hospital under my own power.
Long time coming, but it's been so good.
I think certainly in this instance, it was helpful that he was in the emergency department, but most importantly, he received immediate chest compressions, which is one of the things that we believe, or science believes, that is important to a successful outcome.
We've learned through patients' experiences what gives the patients the best chance for survival. Drew's chance of survival, you might have argued at best would have been 50-50, but I would say his chance of survival, knowing what I know and seeing him, I would say is in the single digits. But because we had those protocols in place, we have to not think about what the next step is. We know what the right next step is. We're able to implement it quickly, effectively, and correctly.
While in the hospital, they helped me change my life. I had bad eating habits, not much physical activity. I worked a lot of hours, stressful hours. I was red in the face, meaning I probably had high blood pressure. I drank probably 6 or 7 sodas a day. Since this has happened, and through the help of my wife and the cardiac rehab and the doctors there at the hospital, I now work out 5 to 10 times a week. My diet is very, very low sodium. I don't eat past 6 o'clock at night, and I eat much, much healthier. A special thanks to everyone at Mercy, to God who really made this happen, to my wife who was and is a great influence and positive force in me accomplishing everything I need to through the help of Mercy to keep getting better.
Keep up the great work. As we said, we started it, but you continue. So, keep going.